This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt stuck, whether it's a major life transition, a dark night of the soul, or just staying small out of fear. If you've ever struggled to move forward, if you're repeating unhealthy patterns in relationships, or you have a black belt in beating yourself up, you were meant for more, and this podcast is for you. We'll get real, we'll get vulnerable, we'll probably cuss a little bit, and we'll get to the root of it all, your self-worth. With every step, you'll find the courage to rise.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Courage to Rise podcast. And today we're going to talk about accepting what is. And this is really the starting point for any rising in any area of our life. And remember, rising doesn't always have to be from the dark night of the soul. It can be from any place that we're at when we're ready to say things need to be different. And when we get into those places of feeling very stuck, feeling trapped, feeling suffocated, feeling like we can't get out of something or something in our life really doesn't fit anymore, usually what's holding us in there is a shame or a resistance or a denial of what is. And in order to release ourselves from that, we start with accepting wherever we are. And it's the idea of not resisting what's coming up, of really allowing ourselves to feel wherever we are and allowing it to be okay. If you're in a job, a relationship, any situation in your life, and you find yourself, again, we don't always realize that we're doing it, and that's why bringing awareness to these things is so important and is such a key, but of bringing awareness to what's going on and what you are. We talked about self-talk on the last episode, but of what you're saying to yourself. Are you saying that you shouldn't feel a certain way? I shouldn't feel this way. My life, it's good. I don't have anything to complain about. I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't feel unhappy. We really get stuck in these cycles of denying how we really feel about something and of layering shame on top of it, or this idea of shoulding, of I should feel this way, I should feel happy, I shouldn't feel sad. Well, the reality of the situation is you do feel unhappy or sad or whatever feeling is coming up. And as long as we're continuing to fight against that, as long as you're putting up resistance against it, as long as you're shaming yourself for feeling a certain way, you're not going to move out of it. It's like it becomes like a dog chasing its tail, and we are keeping ourselves stuck because we're not allowing what is to really be. So, what if in that moment, if you're saying I should be happy, I have a amazing partner, I have money, I have a great job, all these things that we're saying I should be, but the reality is that there's something else going on where that's not something isn't working in your life. And in order to get underneath it, you have to allow yourself to feel it. And it doesn't mean that you're not grateful, because remember, all things are relative, and anyone listening to this podcast has the means and ability to have the technology to even listen to a podcast in the first place. And that alone is a blessing, right? And so, yes, we want to keep perspective and we want to balance the blessings that we have in our life and the things for which we are grateful, while also keeping perspective that you are also allowed to have not only a bad day, but you're allowed to go through things. You can be grateful for all the wonderful blessings in your life, keep that in perspective, and still work through things that are hard or that are challenging or that don't feel good for you. And that can be a kind of shaming in and of itself, where we keep ourselves stuck by saying, I shouldn't feel this way, I shouldn't feel this way. Yeah, count your blessings. Every day, count your blessings. There's all manner of science behind gratitude and appreciating where we are. And also allow yourself to go into, but I don't feel happy. What isn't working in my life that this is what's repeating for me, or this is what's coming up for me? Because when you allow yourself to go into that, that's when you can shift out of it. Otherwise, you're keeping yourself stuck at the surface level of denying and resisting what is. There's also a lot of peace that comes in really, truly accepting things as they are, not as we would wish or want them to be. And this happens it happens in a lot of situations, but you can think of big and small examples, but even in romantic relationships, we might wish for things to be different, or we might wish for someone to love us in return, or to act differently, or to be differently, or to operate differently. We might wish for things to be different, but we have to operate from what is. And the longer that we resist, that we deny really what is, then the longer we keep ourselves in suffering. And the less we're able to move through things in a constructive and empowered way. And in the last episode, I gave the example of negative self-talk and when we make a mistake and when we beat ourselves up, and how that keeps us in a really disempowered state, because that's actually also a denial of what is. Purely the reality, removing the emotion and the self-abuse from it, is a mistake was made. Let's deal with the reality of the situation. Let's deal with what really is and how to move forward from that. And so the first step in shifting any area of your life, let's say you want to create, a new habit, or you want to shift anything in your life, big or small, it's accepting your starting point, accepting wherever you are, accepting whatever you're feeling, and allowing it to be okay. Allow yourself to feel, I'm really I'm not feeling happy lately, or, I quote unquote should love the person that I'm with, or want to be in this partnership. This person is a good person. They're an amazing partner. And also maybe it doesn't fit for me anymore. And this definitely happens in romantic relationships, where we get into a situation where, you can be with someone who is a wonderful person. They're a wonderful human being, and they have amazing qualities and characteristics, and they might also not be the right fit for you. And that's okay. And it's a matter of accepting how you feel about the situation, accepting really what is, and knowing that it's okay that those are the feelings that you're having about the situation. Let's say you're on a road trip and you get lost. Maybe you take a wrong turn, you end up somewhere you had absolutely no intention of being. You're not, maybe you're running late. Who knows, right? You have a choice. You can fight against where you are. You can yell at whoever you're with and blame them for navigating you into the wrong location. You can rail against the fact that you're lost. You can be frustrated. You can resist it. You can fight against it. And is that a good use of your energy? It happens, right? People go that route. People get frustrated. They get angry. They get mad. They are literally on a fundamental level resisting what is. Because what is, in that moment, is that you have gotten lost. You are not in the location that you wanted to end up in. You're not on the path you wanted to be on. You've diverted from your flight plan, right? And so the only way to move out of that, because think about it, you're lost in the middle of, Texas or Nebraska or somewhere else that's, has lots of wide, expansive, open places, and you don't know where you are, you're lost. You can spend your energy being pissed off and frustrated and angry that you're lost. Is that getting you anywhere? If you deny, I shouldn't be here, I don't know how the hell this happened, blah, 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 is that helping? Is that moving you forward? Is that a good use of your energy? Or would it be better to take a breath in? Okay, well, what's the reality of the situation? The reality of the situation is I'm not entirely sure where I am. I took a wrong turn somewhere back there, and I didn't end up where I wanted to be. Okay, I accept that. How am I going to move forward from this point? Let me think about what's available to me to move forward. Because remember, the other side of this coin is that sometimes people carry an unconscious belief or just a belief in general that if you accept what is, it means that you are giving up and that you are accepting wherever you are and that you're not going to move forward from it and you're just accepting the situation as it is. And that's not actually true. Acceptance is just a way of shifting into power. It's a way of shifting out of denial, of shifting out of resistance, and shifting into a place that literally will allow you to move forward. You accept the fact that you're lost. You accept the fact that you got off course. And then you look at, how am I going to use my energy to move forward? How am I going to navigate myself out of the middle of nowhere, wherever I am? Because I can't deny that this is where I am. I can, and that means that you're going to just stay stuck there. But if I accept that this is where I am, I accept that somewhere back there I took a turn that got me here, took a couple of turns that got me here, right? The truth is, the fact is, I got off track. How am I going to move forward from this moment? And so use that analogy and look at anywhere in your life where you feel like you are denying what is. Because the longer you stay there, lost in the middle of that wilderness or the woods or the prairie or whatever, the longer you're standing there denying that where you are is really where you are, the more you're going to stay there. You're going to stay stuck there because you're using all your energy looking backward, fretting about, what's going on, not wanting to be where you are, denying, resisting, and you're going to stay there. And so the very best thing you can do, the starting point for absolutely anything, any rising, anything, it's the starting point is accepting where you are. Then it's making that soul decision that no matter what, you're going to get out of it. And so wherever you are, whatever feelings are coming up for you, whatever is going on in your life, catch yourself when you go to that shoulding, when you start to tell yourself how you should feel, how you should behave, that this shouldn't be what it is. The other question I have is, according to whom, right? Whose yardstick are you using to determine this? Because it really is not about anybody else. It's about you. But who says you should feel that way or you shouldn't feel a certain way? Whose metric are you using to measure this? I write a lot on my blog about the healing process, and anytime we've come through any kind of heartbreak or loss, that there are ways we block our own healing by denying that we are where we are and denying that we feel what we feel. And again, by whose standard are you using that, even if you went through a breakup with someone who wasn't a healthy fit for you, even if it was an undeniably toxic relationship, you're still going to go through grief. There's still going to be a healing process that's involved with that. Even if the person was abusive to you and really truly not a healthy fit, you're still going to go through a grieving process because there is still loss associated with that. And anytime there's any pain, there's any kind of heartbreak, any loss that we go through, the longer that we tell ourselves we shouldn't feel a certain way, or, so-and-so they didn't even treat me well, why do I miss them, or why am I still sad? The more that we push against that, fight against that, the more we fight against the healing waves that come, the longer our healing process is going to be. Because especially when it comes to something like healing from any kind of pain or any kind of trauma, denying that we're feeling what we're feeling is just going to continue to block it. It's going to continue to hold us in this pattern. And when we hold ourselves in those patterns, when we don't allow ourselves to move through healing, when we should all over ourselves, when we deny ourselves from feeling what we feel, that's where we start to develop unhealthy coping mechanisms. It starts to come out in other ways, and it's going to happen like that, right? It will find a way. And that's the difference between pain, right? Pain is inevitable. We've talked about this. Pain is going to happen. Pain is a guarantee in the human experience. It's just part of the whole package. It's part of the beautiful tapestry of emotions that's involved in this wild, madcap human experience that we're all in. It's inevitable. The suffering that we keep ourselves in, it's very much optional. And that's part of what we're learning is, how do we stop the suffering? How do we stop the ways that we keep ourselves in suffering, that we deny ourselves from moving through things in a healthy way? And so you're feeling pain, you're going through heartbreak, some feeling that's coming up. Take away all the shoulding. Don't should on yourself. Allow yourself to be and feel what's coming up for you, and allow it to be okay. And this is where we take space to process these things in a healthy way on our own. It's why, a journaling practice is really powerful. And a lot of people are, well, I don't know how to journal. Journaling is literally just sitting down and writing whatever comes up, or typing if that feels better for you. It's getting out. It's clearing the mechanism. It's giving voice to the things that are inside you that might stay locked inside you because you don't know how to process, you weren't given the tools to process them. Very rarely growing up are any of us given the tools to deal with our emotions or our feelings. I think maybe more so now. I hear about, kids that learn some of these things through certain schools, and I think it's a beautiful thing because, we certainly didn't growing up. It just wasn't, nobody taught you how to process feelings or emotions. But if you are feeling really strong emotions or you're feeling really stuck, especially, it's usually because there's literally something clogging the system, that you're denying something in some way, you're resisting something in some way. And so we want to accept and allow wherever you are, and then we want to start to move through it to figure out what's underneath it. What are those feelings that I'm having? I feel stuck. That's the reality. I feel really unhappy with my life right now, and I don't know why. And accept that. Because what usually happens, as we've talked about, is people feel stuck or they feel unhappy and they deny it, and they just keep moving forward with that denial, and then it comes out in very unhealthy ways. That's when we start to overeat, overdrink, overspend, over something, right? Because it's coming out in some other area. And so when we breathe in, bring awareness to it. Ooh, something's not working and I got to look at this. And I accept this is where I am. This is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling heartbreak. I'm feeling loss. I am feeling really unhappy in my life right now. I accept that. You accept that point, and then you start to look at what is contributing to that, and allow yourself to explore it. And this is why journaling is so powerful. Or, if you have a friend or somebody that you trust, or even a coach, somebody that you can talk this out with, to explore what's really going on. Because usually it takes a couple layers to get underneath what those feelings really are, because we're just not conditioned, or we don't know how to get in touch with our feelings until we start to make it a regular practice. One other tool that I will say is really helpful in this is starting to check in with yourself on a daily basis, even if it means setting a reminder on your phone to check in with, how am I feeling? And this usually feels super foreign right away, because we live in a society where we're largely operating from our head, from our analytical mind, from a doing space. And especially as women, it's vitally important that we connect back to our being, to our feeling, to our hearts. That's where our power is. And we'll talk more about that later. But if you set a reminder, check back in with, how am I feeling? What's really going on in my inner world? Because the more we do that, the more we accept, the more we allow it to be what it is, the less it's going to build up to that point where we just really have no idea what's going on. We just know we're unhappy. We know that we're feeling stuck. We know things aren't feeling good. And I want to give you a challenge. So over the course of this next week or the next couple weeks, I want you to just bring awareness to how many times you are shoulding on yourself, and how many times you're denying or resisting a reality. You're denying or resisting what is. And the more awareness you start to bring to this in big and small ways, the more power you're going to gain, the more empowered you're going to feel, and the more you're going to be able to shift your life in the ways that you want to shift it, to bring in more happiness, contentment, peace, and joy. And it starts truly with accepting what is, with accepting your starting point, with accepting whatever feelings are coming up for you. And the last thing I want to say about this is sometimes we don't want to accept the reality of the situation because there might be pain associated with accepting that reality. And I'll use an example of finances. Let's say you are in a lot of debt and you're in a space of denying what is, because accepting that that's the reality would mean taking some steps. It would mean accepting some pain around how you got there. It would mean accepting some pain around what that might mean for decisions that you're going to make going forward and trade-offs that you might be making. But also know that when we accept what is, sometimes it's literally saying, yeah, I see it. I accept it for what it is. I might not be ready to do anything about it yet, but I accept that this is the reality of the situation. And when you do that, that alone is a huge step forward, because it's releasing an energy and a resistance, and it's allowing other things to step into that space when the time is right. Because this is about empowering you within your own life And that is ultimately what this is about. When we accept what is, you are empowering yourself within your own life to move into a place that is taking you away from suffering and into greater alignment and fulfillment. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Courage to Rise podcast. Visit my website, couragetorise.com, for more information on one-on-one coaching, group coaching programs, and other upcoming events. Remember, life's too short not to sparkle. Sparkle on.